I'm privileged to be here, being a student of physics, talking about nano science and nanotechnology. It's always attracts me. There is reason for it. And the reason is this, that my favorite subject in physics is quantum mechanics. So I'm gonna discuss a couple things with you. I will interact with you, rather interact with you. By the way, I'm going to ask a question. Why we interested in nano? From students. Why? Any reason? Why we spend too much energy and time and money and everything for small particles of nano size? Why? Why not micro? From the students? Yeah, sure.
It can interact. It have glass as a surface area.
Yes.
And nano size can easily cross the membranes, cross the area.
Okay. What else? There's some answers. Any other answer? Yeah, go for it.
Because the basis of life starts from smaller things.
Okay, smaller things. Any other answer? Because I told you people earlier that I'm a physicist. I'm looking for a question related to physics. Okay, let me ask you a question. What is the speed of this box right now? Very good. Means the velocity is zero, right? Right? And the position of this box is exactly known. Yes or no? The position is exactly. What about if I make this as an electron or an atom? Then what will happen? So we are talking about the property of the box, that the momentum of this box is zero, and we know that the position is exactly known. But the box is changed to what? To a microscopic particle, like electron or atom, and nanoparticle. So is there going to be any change in it? Yes or no? Yes. Here physics will come. Here physics will come. So what do people think? The physics will totally change or not? So the physics of this particle when we go to a microscopic level will totally change. And now the momentum of the particle, can I say it is zero? Yes or no?
No.
The position, can I say that the position is exactly known?
No.
Very nice. Means that you people, everybody knows physics. That's important. And that is good. This is the beauty of physics, because now we are talking about uncertainty. We are talking about uncertainty. And if there is no uncertainty in this, then that will be not physics at all. My answer will be totally wrong. Did you guys get my point? Uncertainty is certain. Uncertainty is. So now, like when we talk about physics, we talk about classical physics, and then we talk about quantum physics. Classical physics and? So in classical physics, we talk about, like everything is certain. I know the trajectory. I know if the particle is thrown from here, I can tell you after a couple minutes where the particle will be. I can exactly tell you. But what about if the same particle is microscopic particle? I I can't say at all. Let me give you an example. Very interesting example. That's my favorite example. Let's suppose I have, like 2 slits here in this wall. And I have a gun, I shoot a bullet. So the bullet either will be stopped by the wall, or will be passed through slit A, or will be passed through slit B. Right? What about if I have an electron, a microscopic particle, a nanoparticle, whatever you are talking about? Now, if I shoot that, what will be the answer? Now it's so kind of confusing, right? Because now we say that the whole physics has changed. The whole physics is, for this particle we will be not using the classical physics. In classical physics I know that when I shoot the bullet, I exactly can tell you after a minute, after 50 seconds, I can tell you exactly the location. But here, no. We talk about what? We talk about the possibilities. And interestingly, what happens, it has been experimentally proved, that the particle that will be passed through both of the slits together. How is it possible? देखिए, थोड़ा सा इंसान के ज़हन को गड़बड़ हो जाती है ना? बात समझ आ रही है या नहीं आ रही? It is a particle. It is a particle. But the particle is passing through both slits. And then again we go. That is a well associated with the particle. Here is a wave. And one of my students, he's sitting here and his PhD project was in this topic. Like exactly on the same topic. So now coming back to the point, why nanoparticle? Because when we go to certain level in material, quantum effects, unusual effects. देखिए, हम तो सर्टेनिटीज की बात कर रहे थे ना? अब सर्टेनिटीज से हम किधर चले गए? We went from certainties to uncertainties, and this unusual behavior comes from where? It comes from the size, and because of their size, when its whole nature changes, its physics changes. और हम जो है फिर बात करते हैं कि no more we apply classical physics to the particle, but we apply what to the physics? Quantum physics. So this is the quantum effects that defines, that differentiates the science of nanoparticles from other particles. This is the science of what? That sort of quantum effects which are basically introduced in the particle because of the size. तो उसकी वजह से what happens? मेरे ख्याल में the time is kind of late and we already asked the speakers to be short, so if I spend too much time, that's not appropriate. Anyway, thanks to Vice Chancellor for inviting me, Dr. Fayaz for inviting me, the organizers inviting me to this wonderful activity on nano science and nanotechnology. I hope, I remember that I was here, I think 1 year or 2 years before I was here in the same activity. So thank you very much, and thanks for the delegates. I really enjoyed the talks. It was amazing. So I really learned from them. With these words, once again, I'm very thankful to the Vice Chancellor and other organizers, and wish a safe journey back. to the delegates who are here with us. Thank you.
Students were sweating like me. So one day they found that the paper which they are touching, because they were playing with gold as well, so that become red. So that shows that something in our sweat is basically reducing gold to gold nanoparticles. So then what we did, because it is just a mixture of so many things, we tried to figure out what exactly is the chemical which is responsible for the conversion of those gold ions to gold nanoparticles. And we found that that is biosurfactant, which is very abundant in our body. And then we made bioink. Using that biosurfactant, we developed bioink to print these text patterns and circuit patterns on different substrates, plastic and other materials. So initially these were not visible, but you can produce gold nanoparticles specifically on those printing, which was done by inkjet printing, and you can develop these type of things. So we actually were targeting that we may be able to develop some flexible electronic materials, but unfortunately in this case, when we observed in the electron microscope, still there was a huge gap between particles, so they were not conducted in nature. So we are still trying to make these kind of things conducted so that they can be used for that. We are working a lot on developing materials that can be used for the detection of different pollutants and simultaneous removal as well. Here is just an example in which we develop these hierarchically porous beads of polymers, in which they have bigger pores, and within these bigger pores there are very small pores, and out to this there are silver nanoparticles. So they have huge surface area, and then they can be used to develop filters which can basically remove variety of pollutants and even kill bacteria if you pass those kind of water samples down this. So we are also working with some industry, textile industry and actually paint industry to develop antimicrobial materials as well. This is just an example of antimicrobial paints. So we take the resins which are produced by our local industry, and without using any additional chemicals, starting from commercial silver, you can produce silver nanoparticles. And this band does simply show that we are increasing the concentration of silver nanoparticles as we go. So we are able to control this. And they can be painted in hospitals so that bacteria cannot contaminate different surfaces. So this was all about biomedical. I don't know how much time is there, how much interest is there. I am still the halfway. The rest is about energy. So if you want to finish here, I can. Should I continue?
It's your permission.
No. You know, like the thing is this is more interesting.
Okay.
You should have started.
Carry on.
Okay. Because my topic was actually biomedical.
Yeah.
So I wanted to finish this, include this as well. So we know that there's a lot of trend about renewable technologies as well, but this is just a trend. In Pakistan, even we are not using renewable energy at all. So if we simply look at the energy that is available from the sun, that is actually the sole source of energy. And if you can harvest this energy, we can actually easily address the energy problems of whole world basically. So this is just, you can see these dark spots in some regions. If you can install solar cells only in these regions which are rich in sunlight, you can produce about 18 terawatt of energy. And that energy is more than sufficient. At the moment we are using 16 terawatt for the whole world. So this very small amount if you can harvest, then you can actually address all needs of energy technologies. But the problem is, we cannot really harvest all the energy that at the moment that is coming from the sun. So for that, basically if you look in Pakistan perspective, for example, in Pakistan if annual growth rate is 8%, by 2030 maybe we will be having this much energy demand. And there is huge gap between energy supply and energy demand. And it is increasing day by day. Despite that, this region is really one of the best regions to harvest sunlight. But for harvesting sunlight, this is currently the energy mix here in Pakistan. So if you look, we can hardly see any contribution from the renewable energy technologies. So there is highest, actually, the best source that we are using is still the fuels, the fossil fuels, a lot of environmental pollution. So in order to harvest this energy, basically, you need to develop materials which can absorb sunlight, and then they can convert that light into electrical energy. And for that, different type of solar cell technologies are being developed. Currently, perovskite solar cells, dye-sensitized solar cells, thin-film solar cells, multi-junctional solar cells. A lot of things are being developed, but still, these are the main challenges. One, low efficiency, a high cost of the materials that we are using, because even for the solar cells that we use, here we use crystalline silicon, which is very expensive. And then energy storage. So at daytime we can harvest light, but what about night? What will you do? So you need to develop materials which can store energy as well. Okay, so for that purpose, dye-sensitized solar cell, for example, people are trying to develop these kind of dyes which can absorb major portion of sunlight. And this is at the moment the best dye, ruthenium-based dye, which is used for this purpose. Ruthenium, we know it is rare earth metal, it's very expensive. And same time, because it is kind of complex, organometallic complex, after sometimes it degrades as well, if it keep interacting with the sunlight. So that is the major problem with these dye-sensitized solar cells. Back in 2009, so this is work from, I was talking with Shimone about Stilaci. So this guy was professor at MIT. In 2009, they predicted that if they can reduce the size of silver nanoparticle to only 25 atoms, that would be around 1 to 2 nanometer, then that silver will not behave as matter, but it will start behaving as semiconductor. Because their HOMO, LUMO, and valence conduction band will be separated, and it will meanwhile absorb major portion of sunlight as well. So they were really curious to prepare these type of silver nanoparticles of 25 atoms, which has potential applications for solar cell technology. They actually did this. They actually prepared this material using these kind of organic molecules at the surface. Again, when we talk about smaller particles, we always need to use these molecules which can control the nucleation and growth at the early stage, and they are thyroids. So they were able to actually produce these kind of nanoclusters, but unfortunately they were not very stable. Even after few hours, they lose their optical properties, so they are of no use for practical applications. So luckily, I was visiting his group back in 2010 and 11, and they gave me this problem that if you can address that would be great. I came back to Pakistan, and I put one of my undergraduate students to address this challenge. And we were able to design these kind of organic ligands which can produce these silver 44 clusters basically, and they were extremely stable. So you can produce large amount of these clusters. So in nanotechnology, this is very large amount. So this is 1 liter bottle of nanoparticles, large amount. We call it large scale preparation. And then they are stable. You can dry them, and you can then use them whenever you want to. But still the problem is they are soluble in water. For solar cell technology, you need to make soluble in certain solvent which are going to make some thin films. So what is a bad solvent for that? So now we are trying to actually design new ligands which can make equally stable clusters of silver, which can absorb major portion of sunlight, and then meanwhile act as a semiconductor to generate that electron hole pairs as well. So by making very thin film of silver, that hopefully can be used. So meanwhile, we were also trying to develop many new ligands, polymer-based ligands, which basically have these thiol functional groups. One polymer molecule having several thiol groups. The purpose was to basically arrest the growth of, to stop the growth of these nanoparticles at this early stage. And in this way, we were able to make nano clusters which were less than 1 nanometer of all these metals. And you will see they are fluorescent. So they are not metals in this size regime. Normally, we know gold, silver, palladium, platinum, all these are metals. But they are metals only when the particle size is bigger than 2 nanometers. जब 2 nanometer से कम size करते हैं, then their valence band and the conduction band, they get separated from each other and they start behaving like semiconductors and even like molecules. So they become fluorescent and they have really very interesting, they have huge surface area, very active catalyst, and meanwhile can also be used for bioimaging application because they are fluorescent, they do not photobleach. So a lot of biomedical and energy applications. So at the moment, nowadays, my group is focusing more because all these particles that I have talked so far, they are based on gold and silver, they are very expensive metals. But if you really want to bring this technology to market, you need to work with materials which are cheaper. So for that purpose, we are working nowadays on nanoparticles of iron oxide nanoparticles, of nickel, of copper, of cobalt, which are really abundant. And then use those to separate water to produce hydrogen. Water separated. We know principally water can be separated to produce hydrogen. But the amount of energy that is required to separate water, that is more than the energy you will produce from it. So you really need to develop catalysts which can reduce the energy that is required to separate water into hydrogen. And for that purpose, we have produced several nickel-based, copper-based nanoclusters and iron oxide nanoclusters, which contain only nickel 4 atoms or nickel 6 atoms, and they are very, very effective for water separating applications. More recently, what we have done, we have generated nickel particles on graphene sheets. And then we found that they are less than 1 nanometer. And they are extremely effective. So this one, we just got very good review from SCS Applied Materials. And if you look at these kind of graphs, all these parameters, I don't want to go into technical details, they show they are highly effective, even more effective than the best catalyst nowadays, that is iridium oxide, and they are extremely stable. Even after 90 hours, they are maintaining more than 90% of their electrocatalytic activity. That is really amazing in this case. So, another thing, we are also working on microporous materials. Microporous materials, and then here what we did, if there are chemists, they might have heard about Friedel-Crafts alkylation reaction. And one of the limitations of Friedel-Crafts alkylation is polyalkylation, that you cannot really stop alkylation at certain state. So we made use of that Friedel-Crafts alkylation reaction to make polymers physically growing layer by layer on different substrates and having huge surface area, more than 3,000 meters square per gram. So this work was published last year in Science. And now what we are doing is, basically we are conjugating titanium nanoparticles, oxide nanoparticles, with functional graphene on one side, and then hyper-cross-linked polymers we are generating, so that these hyper-cross-linked polymers, they have both sides which can absorb carbon dioxide. So you can absorb carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and then convert it into hydrocarbons. So this is just submitted to Nature Communication. And then for energy storage, because all these materials that I am discussing, that are based on nickel, copper, and iron oxide nanoclusters, basically. Nanoclusters, when I say they are smaller than 2 nanometers, they are really useful for electrode materials for variety of electrochemical applications. So we are in lithium ion batteries in particular, we are combining these with nanocarbon, with carbon nanotubes and graphene sheets, these nanoparticles, to enhance the efficiency of the. So these are some for catalytic applications. I don't want to go into detail. So this is just, I'm not sure if you have heard about KAUST. KAUST is probably one of the richest university in the world and the best graduate university of Muslim countries. In Saudi Arabia, I have been associated with them as a visiting professor for many years, especially during summer. So this silica nanoparticles, basically nanofiber-like particles, fibrous particles, they were developed by them for the petroleum industry. So in petroleum industry, you know, there are a lot of gases which are coming out. So they wanted to convert carbon monoxide into carbon dioxide. So we generated different metal nanoclusters which range in size from less than 1 nanometer to about 20 nanometer. And then systematically studied. And then we found that these 1 nanometer gold clusters, they are really efficient. Gold को हमेशा हम कहते हैं noble metal. Okay, it does not react with anything, but it doesn't react if particle size is bigger than 5 nanometer. When you reduce its size to smaller than 5 nanometer, they're really useful catalysts, especially for carbon monoxide oxidation. So this was all about the summary of what we are doing. Finally, because this work is not purely completely done here in Pakistan, because we really don't have the facilities to characterize these materials. So I have a lot of collaboration in USA, Europe, China, Saudi Arabia, and I keep traveling. And we prepare material here, and then we send our collaborators for characterization and application. And it is all because of this collaborative effort that we have done this material. Thank you very much for this.
To run, you know, so it becomes really very difficult at the moment, so I don't have much time, and I was told just to take a few minutes, 20 are the maximum, you have 30 minutes, so you have to finish. While I was here and was prepared to talk for an hour, that's why most of the talk that I will skip most of the things during my presentation, just to save the time, because we have Professor Tukasa from Aon University and our guests and all of you. And normally whenever I have tried to prepare a presentation, so I do try to keep in mind the majority of the audience, the students. So normally we have a very small fraction of the audience who are specialized and they know about the field and they are well established. But the majority of the audience are those who are just new to the field, who are the students who really want to know about the basics of this particular field. And here today we are, as we are talking about nanoscience and nanotechnology. And for the last 2 or 3 weeks, I was also shuttling between 2 universities, that is the Hazara University and the Islamic College University, because I have been appointed as associate professor in Islamic College, so I had to move here, and my family is back in Mansera, so I have to come here. That's why it was security alert. Should I help you? To move from one computer to another one, how this will work, if you can help me. So, I would talk a little bit about the conversion of cathode and nanomaterials to lithium-ion batteries. So, Professor Shahad has talked about the lithium-ion batteries, but our interest is quite different. That is based on the conversion-based cathode material. That's something different from the conventional lithium-ion batteries. But to talk generally about a little bit about the nanomaterial and nanotechnology, ladies and gentlemen, you will know that nanotechnology is nothing new topic or a subject. It was an art for centuries. If you look to if you go through the history, you would see that there are plenty of articles, there are plenty of material have been produced while using the nanotechnology, and due to this nanotechnology. But at that time, when the science was not known of the nanotechnology, it was an art. For example, if we look to one of the classical articles still existing from the 5th or 4th century, the Khyber glass, and you would astonish that at that time it was an art. No one was knowing about the nanotechnology behind this, but it was prepared, and it has the peculiarity, this glass, that when it is illuminated from front side, so you will get a different color. When the same is illuminated from back side, it has been a different color. But actually this change in color with the illumination direction, it was because of the nanotechnology involved here, though no one was knowing at that time. And similarly, you would have been observed many of the time this tint glass, and we know that for centuries these glass are in use, but still they are luminous, their durability still exists, they are still in work, and it is because of the fact that at that time it was an art, but it was because of the nanotechnology. And the science behind this was not known, but it was that when coinage metal salts like gold or copper or the silver is embedded into a glass, so you would produce these brilliant glasses that they can last for centuries without varying their color. And similarly, this guy has then developed a colloidal solution where he has observed that for a single gold, so you can have different colors, solution of different colors. And up till here, no one was knowing about the science behind this all. But once it has been discovered some 30 or 40 years back that actually when the nanosization and the nanostructuration methods, so it has been then, the science has been developed and the nanotechnology, and it has been now in use for many applications. For example, there are plenty of applications. So one of this very interesting Xbox, so the PlayStation, and you can see that how much smaller is the size and the density has been increased because of the nanosization of the material. And similarly, you would have seen during while watching the cricket match, so you would have seen this white vest on the vest of the players, but this is now has been replaced by using the nanotechnology. And similarly, as Professor Ishaq told you, the nanoparticle, the silver nanoparticle are now used as dye and antimicrobes, and furthermore, the aerodynamics of this golf ball has been changed dramatically by using this nanotechnology. But one of the question is that, is nanosization is enough? There is a big no. For a specialized application, you cannot rely only upon the fact to just nanosize the material. If you have a nanoparticle, it's enough. No, it's not enough. If you have to a specialized application, which I will discuss one of them that we have worked upon, you need nano-architecturing. So you need an engineering at the nano level to create or to prepare or to fabricate viable nano architecture. And from there one can have the inspiration from the nature. If we look into the nature, so you would have seen this sticky bits, and if you look here, these are nano structure, structure, but you can see the pattern, that these nanostructures are properly engineered. These are not mere nanosization, just like the colloidal nanoparticle or whatsoever. These are properly engineered. And similarly, if you move further to the nature, this is the strong spider silk. So you can see that there are proper engineering is involved, and this is stronger than steel if you use in proportion to the steel. And similarly, the self-cleaning, light-reflecting butterflies being, so here the nanotechnology has been used by nature, but in the proper engineering and optical nanoscience. And one of the classical example is this water collecting beetles back. So you can see here that this Bombs are actually hydrophilic, that they attract the water from the environment, and once the droplet is larger enough, and this droplet then trickle down to this place, and this place is then hydrophobic, and the water droplet then trickle down to the mouth of the beetle, and it can, while staying in deserts and so on where there are no water, it can drink water through this nanotechnology. And you can see that here the nanotechnology it's a proper engineering, not only the mere nanosization and so on. There are plenty of other examples like this Chokan beak, and so on and so forth. So from this, we then inspire and to engineer viable architecture at the nano level to use them for these portable devices and energy storage device, the secondary batteries. One of the very important device of today to make the society mobile. You can see here, and particularly we are moving here to the large scale application of these mobile devices to power these cars with electricity to overcome the pollution and to overcome the depleting resources of fossil fuel and so on and so forth. However, these batteries, I'm not going to the detail of the batteries, so I would like to come directly to one of the batteries. This is the lithium-ion batteries here today that they are in use, and due to this lithium-ion battery, you can see that I have this mic in my hand. And this lithium-ion battery has replaced all the other battery technologies, that is the primary or the secondaries, because of some of their advantages like high energy density, power rate, cycle life. But one disadvantage is the cost at the moment. So this cost must be reduced, and the efficiency must be increased to use it for large-scale application, for example, for automobiles. And we can see here that on the gravimetric and volumetric density comparison, lithium-ion batteries are surpassing all the other. And it is estimated, and it is that the future economy indicator would be lithium. The country having more lithium will be more powerful economically than the rest. And we can see that the growth in lithium-ion batteries technology is tremendous, and surpassing by 2009, it has surpassed all the other batteries technologies. And the lithium-ion battery, though I'm not going to save my time, just I would say here the reaction, that is the cathode, this reaction is taking place while using this one material, and at anode we have this material, and here the X is the number of transferable electrons in between 0 and 1. So for workload, that the work has to be taken from any from the battery. This is the number of transferable electron. The more the number of transferable electron, the more work you will have, or the more will be the efficiency. And the present day lithium-ion batteries, based on the intercollision mechanism, with all this material, they are limited in terms of their capacity. That the maximum practical capacity one can achieve is 170 milliampere hour per gram, and this is already has been achieved. If you do nanosization or you do architecturing or whatever you do, you cannot increase, or even if you change the material from this one to all these three new materials, so you will be here somewhere in between 140 to 170 milliampere hour per gram. You cannot do anything with it. This is the intrinsic limitation of this material, and it is clear that in the mechanism, that is the intercollision mechanism, that the lithium intercalates in the anode and the cathode material, and during this intercalation, the shuttling of lithium is accompanied by very limited number of electrons, that is lesser than 1 electron. So the lesser the electron, the lesser would be then the capacity, the lesser energy would be stored. So to overcome the handicap of this material, one then need to move to new concepts, because with this existing lithium-ion battery, if you go, you can imagine that for 85 kilowatt hour, you need 7,000 lithium-ion batteries, which are equal to this AA battery, the small AA batteries, if you will, 35,000. And it would have a pack of 320 kg. So imagine that if you have a car with 320 kg of extra load because of this battery. So therefore, a serious breakthroughs are then needed in novel concept in material research. So you have to change the material. And the material must be the one that has the ability to transfer more than one electron. The more the electron, the more then would be energy, and this could be done by this conversion cathode-based material where a chemical reaction is involved and lithium react with this particular material and it gets converted into a metal, and this metal is a transition metal, so where then you know that they have the oxidation state, a stable state of +2 or more than +2, so you will have 2 or more than 2 transferable electron. 3-4 fold, then those are the intercalation based batteries, the conventional batteries. So the capacities then would be dramatically increased. And if we go to the periodic table, so one this is here the transition metal fluorides. But the problem with fluorides are that they have low conductivity. That's low electrode cycle life and large hysteresis voltage. These are the killing part of the battery. So therefore, the requirement is, or the need is to overcome this low conductivity, to increase the conductivity and low electrode life cycle, to overcome this and large hysteresis voltage. And this could be, this could be done by proper engineering, because in conversion material you are transferring between two materials, and whenever there is a transformation of one material to the other, so there would be volume changes. When the volume changes, so due to this, the material would definitely undergo disintegration and the stability is not existing. So therefore, the concept should be such that if there are volume changes due to this transformation, it must be buffered. It must be buffered. When you buffer this volume changes, the disintegration of the material would be stopped, and the result would be longer life of the batteries. And on the capacity term, this conversion base have more capacities. That, for example, if you use nickel in +2 oxidation state, the theoretical capacity is 500 milliampere hour per gram compared to that of the intercalation based, the practical or the commercial battery. So this could be then done by engineering. So if we have solid material, you can see this transformation that will lead into disintegration. So we need here to have something to buffer these changes, and this could be done by incorporating an extra volume in the material like the hollow spheres. And this we have tested, so I'm going a little bit quicker. So we have tested two different systems. One that through water in oil microemulsion, this superstructure have been created through water in oil microemulsion, and the capacity has been tested, and we have found that in first cycle, though it's very high up to 700, but in the 10th cycle, still we have about 400 milliampere hour per gram of the capacity, quite very higher still. But as you move on, so this decreases drastically. If you reach to the 20th cycle, so you can see that it is now well below that of the conventional lithium-ion battery. So therefore, this material, though has played a significant role to give you the material, the lithium-ion batteries with higher capacities, but still, due to the inability to buffer these volume changes, so inability to buffer these volume changes, this material is unable to retain its cycle. So therefore, then we have tested a new material to prepare this hollow sphere of the transition metal fluorides. So here in this case, we have tested the nickel fluoride, and a 3-step method was used. That's a solid template, and it was coated to make this core shell structure, and then the core was removed. This is a very specific process, aniline fluorination under the 100% pure fullerene. So the silicon dioxide reacts with fullerene, giving you this gas, while you get the anhydrous transition metal fulleride halosphere, and this halosphere then has I'm just moving a bit fast. The preliminary results have shown that they have far better capacity than those of the conventional material than those of the material that are not based on hollow structuration. So this study is still in progress, and we are working in France with a company to use these for practical batteries on a large scale to see the changes here. And I would just skip it because I have taken, I think, the time of. There are some of the SEM images that we have captured, and to confirm that the halosphere has been obtained. So I would conclude that highly anhydrous transition metal for superstructure were achieved for the very first time through this careful engineering at moderate temperature, and the nano architecture are quite very viable. They are stable. They can last for a longer time. And the galvanostatic study showed improved capacity retention upon cycling by cathode material based on hollow structure, having to buffer this strain. This is very important, because in conversion cathode material you have to buffer these volume changes, and this could be significantly buffered by using this hollow structure. But they were referred to at moderate. The preliminary galvanic results showed improved electrochemical properties by transition metal fulleride halosphere compared to this conventional. So in future we have to optimize the scale of the material optimization, and fabricate a number of other transition metal, for example with iron. So you have one-dimensional hollow structure, and we have to study all the other things. These are some of the group members in France. The collaborator here. So I am collaborating in an international project with this guy, and we are working on this project. And some of the colleagues here in Hazara University, Mansehra, who have contributed to this project. So thank you very much. I would have been finished in the given time. Thank you very much.
Nanoscience synthesis methodology of this novel process results application in conclusion of this work. Heterometallic catalysts are basically essential part of all the industry, including refineries, chemical, food industries, and pharmaceutical. They are used because they are thermally stable. They can be used for efficient production of lot of materials, and also they are selective. Production of nano-size material is a tough job, particularly when they produce at larger scale. This is because the physical and chemical properties of the nanoparticle are different from their bulk ingredients, and this becomes huge challenge when we put these 5 properties into industrial scale nanomaterials, especially the particle size, chemical linkage, elemental distribution, surface morphology, and also the durability. To overcome the synthesis issue, several methods have been developed and more are in process. One of them is the possible solution is the metal organic framework. First the synthesis and then their decomposition to produce nano-sized heterometallic catalyst. The good thing is the metal organic framework is there. They have the unique properties, especially their surface chemistry, their porosity and other properties are very good. The problem in the heavy industry at temperature they decompose. And also the metal content in the metal organic frameworks was also not good, so it's decreased the efficiency with respect to time. So to overcome these issues, this two-step method was developed and was applied to produce the catalyst at industrial scale. So research aim of this work is to review two-step chemical process and its application for energy application as well as environmental application. The main methodology of this process is to react the metal salt with the ligand. Ligand is the organic part in the 2-propanol to produce the monometallic system, and in the next stage, the monometallic system are further reacted to produce bimetallic system, and then these bimetallic system are further decomposed to produce the nanoparticles. But the problem is, again, the handling of nanoparticles, especially for the industry, is handling it and usage is both problem, especially when we deal in tons and kgs. So to overcome this issue, we use to synthesize the metal organic frameworks and their nanoparticles. And then further, we impregnate these nanoparticles on the surface of zeolites, so that zeolite can be used as a spore, a nanoparticle they can effectively use for a variety of applications. In the synthesis step, we first optimize the production of zinc, metal organic frameworks and aluminum organic frameworks. Then these optimized conditions were used for the production of further bimetallic system and trimetallic system. We see the overall yield is about 80% or more than 80%, and similarly for the supported catalyst, again the yield is 80%. So these are some results. From the beginning we see aluminum metal organic frameworks and zinc metal organic frameworks. When they reacted, they produce bimetallic system with great surface morphology and other properties. And when these are thermally decomposed, they produce the nanoparticles. And there are some few more results. And these are the results for the nickel complex and aluminum complex. Again, we see when we move from monometallic system to bimetallic system, we see the surface morphology is greatly improved, and also the decomposition produce the nanorods. Here are some XRD and other results. In the second stage, we integrate the nanoparticle on the surface of the zeolite. Zeolite basically used as a spore, and the nanoparticle is used for the catalytic activity. We see the surface morphology is greatly improved by the integration of nanoparticles on the surface of zeolite. Here are some results and elementary distribution. So, in the second stage, instead of producing a single heterometallic system, we produce a series of heterometallic nanoparticles, and they are integrated on the zeolite. From here we see this is surface of zeolite, but we integrate different nanoparticles of iron, zinc, copper, and we see the surface morphology greatly change.
Universities. Number 1. University of Malaya along with Indonesian University will jointly work in symposium with the University of Haripur. Point number 2. University of Malaya will invite graduates, students, researchers for higher study in Malaysia. Nanofabrication lab will provide the available facility to faculty, researchers, and to the students of University of Haripur for their requirements. The University of Haripur will be the partner with University of Malaya, Nanofabrications, Italy, and NUST will organize this event jointly in turn after 1 year in each partner country. In 2019, even we are looking forward for University of Malaya hosting this event. So we really hope for the best. The University of Haripur will work jointly with NUST in the field of nanosciences, and we really do hope this project will be successfully materialized. Thank you so much. So, a good day. But as every journey has an end, so this workshop is going to end. Now I would like to call Dr. Iftikhar, the Vice Chancellor of Abbas for closing notes. So guys, give your huge round of applause.